From superhero symbolism
to filmmaking ideology.
This week we're discussing Superman and Man with a movie camera.
This is The Film Angle. Welcome to The Film Angle, a podcast where we dive deep into the latest releases and unearth the classics to better our cinephilic curiosity. I'm Alex.
And I'm Kris.
Shall we do it again, Kris?
Yeah.
Shall we do a musical start to the episode?
Okay, yeah.
New Superman theme tune, which is a bit of the old Superman theme tune. Let's go for it.
It's a bit more like... Bow, bow, bow. Bow, 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 bow. Forgot about that bit. I'm there. Bow, 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 bow. Yeah, I checked out of the embarrassing myself stage, and I was just like, this guy seems to be enjoying it. Let him run with it.
I never know if there's going to be any lag on this, so it's not until we get to the edit we'll just see if we're like completely out of sync.
It's either I don't know if it's lag or we're just both completely musically not gifted.
Maybe there's that. But yes, we know how to put films together, guys. We know how to put a double bill together. Mm-hmm. This is all random, obviously, because of our sight and sound list. But yes, today we are pairing the new James Gunn Superman film with it's not a man, it's just man with a movie camera.
Yeah, and I mean, there's some sort of symmetry going on there, but I think this is an insight into our production process. Is that we're going to do our main show and let's do this series, but we don't really like know where it's going to end up. We kind of do the planning later after we come up with the good idea.
Wow, it's like whatever, we do a little bit of planning, but it's kind of a case of like, all right, this is the new film coming out this week. Oh, just so happens to coincide with this place on the sight and sound list. So
yeah, and like if you're listening when you're listening to a film podcast, I don't know if you're anything like me, Alex, but like sometimes I like a little bit of variety. I don't want to like listen to we're going to talk about Spider-Man, and now next we're going to talk about Spider-Man 2. I know we just did 4 Superman movies the other week, but like, you know what I mean? We'd like to keep it a little bit versatile, and more often than not, it's completely jarringly versatile.
Yes. Vertov would probably hate Superman. I'm just going to check it out there.
I think he hit 90% of the movies that we talked about.
To be honest,
on the show.
He was a hater. We'll get into it later, but he seemed like a bit of a hater.
And people hated him too.
Yeah, and I can understand why. I guess that felt more like an in-joke, didn't it? Like nobody's in on it yet, unless you're already a student of Vertov.
And if you're not a student of Vertov, this is a tease for, the latter part of the show. So stay tuned.
Absolutely. But we know why you're all here, really. We know why. Mm-hmm. You want to know our thoughts.
You want to see those sexy red undies.
Yeah, you want to know if we like the new Superman film. And they're going, well, that guy rated Superman 3 as his number 1 film last week. So he's got to love Superman.
Yeah.
I'm a man of many contradictions, ladies and gentlemen. Just warning you off. Shall we just get into it, Kris? Shall we just get into our review of Superman?
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk about Superman with you because you've seen it a couple days before me.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I deliberately told you, please do not tell me your opinion. I will let you know how I feel when I come out, and then we can meet somewhere in the middle. So our opinions are completely our own. We haven't had time to mesh and gel and coagulate our views and biases about which one of the Reeve films are better and which one is potentially lesser.
Yep.
So yeah, let's get into it, man.
Let's do it. Superman 2025 This is the new Superman film from James Gunn.
Mm-hmm.
He has fully departed Marvel now after doing a little bit of flip-flopping between Suicide Squad and Guardians of the Galaxy. He is now the head of DC Studios, along with Peter Safran, his long-term kind of producing partner. And they are rebooting the DC universe. And they're starting it off with the Man of Steel himself, Superman. Yeah, after a relatively failed Snyderverse, as it's so called, version of events which happened with the DC films, kind of quite a controversial mix of films. There's a lot of love for some of them in this series. Some of the series I do enjoy, but yeah, for the most part, I mean, in a way, it all kind of went downhill after Batman v Superman. That mixed with a general kind of fatigue for superhero films, they've been kind of struggling to kind of get themselves back out of the dirt, and James Gunn has come in and said, we'll just scrap that, we'll start again. Recasting Superman, recasting majority of the DC universe, and wiping the slate semi-clean, and we're just going with it. This is the first one.
Mm.
Technically, there is an animated TV show before this, which he wrote. One of the Monsters ones. I can't remember exactly what it is.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. This is our first kind of live action look.
General audiences start here. Yeah.
Absolutely. We always start spoiler free. I think it's going to be difficult to stay spoiler free for too long. We'll obviously give you a warning when we decide to go into spoilers. So don't worry about that. There was a lot riding on this film.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to discuss in this film. So, Chris, you start us off, mate. Give us your general thoughts. What are you thinking?
Okay, well, anybody who is not brand new to the show, who has been following us for a while and heard our various thoughts on superhero movies will know that, like, you know, it's a tough sell for me sometimes. I like when superhero movies are great and they have an emotional core to them, but recently over the last few years, obviously Marvel has been losing its steam, and apart from the odd few DC films, they haven't really stuck with me. I'm gonna say I was kind of pleasantly surprised by James Gunn's Superman. I had a really good time with this movie, and we'll kind of get into the reasons why, but primarily what that comes down to is a mixture of the stuff that I really liked from our Reeve series when we were watching those 4 original Superman movies, as well as some of those darker tones from the Snyderverse that maybe were linked too heavily into that universe. I feel that Gunn's universe, or his depiction of the Superman world, is a sort of nice mixture of the two, a nice manifesto on what a nice sort of storybook for like what kind of Superman should be. I really think so.
Okay.
That's just me. That's me starting off. And
I don't know how to come into this without sounding like a dick. All right, so history for me. If anybody hasn't listened before, I'm the superhero guy. I love superheroes. Have been somewhat fatigued by recent stuff coming out of both camps, both DC and Marvel. Every now and then something comes out of that, and I enjoy it again. But my enthusiasm is waning for these kinds of films. I do really enjoy Superman. But there was a lot riding on this film. You are completely rebooting a universe. You are trying to bring in this new kind of depiction of Superman. And what I got was some really nice character stuff, which I did enjoy, in a film that I didn't think broke the mold a lot. And I was maybe left slightly disappointed, but I just kind of like, I liked a lot of the ideas that were in this, that James Gunn was bringing to this. But I didn't think it was kind of new enough or broke the mold enough for me to feel like, oh, this is the start of this new big universe. I was like, oh, this just kind of feels like a slightly better version of what we've had before from DC. And I don't know, like it felt more, a lot of people are saying like this is a very comic booky film, which it is. I'll give you that. It is comic booky. But I think more than comic booky, it's cartoony. Like, it feels like a Saturday morning cartoon. You're dropped into the action. Your characters are very, you know, they are tropes of what has come before. You have to kind of begin to kind of learn who they are and what they resemble, and it's not difficult to pick that up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we kind of get it. They are what they are, and I just felt like there was a lot of simplicity to this, and a lot of kind of silliness, which sometimes I do enjoy. Like I said, I did say Superman 3 was my favorite out of the Christopher Reeve films. I get that. That's a silly film. But we're looking at a modern day Superman film here. And I thought maybe at times it indulged too much into the silliness. And again, this is why we might not be on the spoiler section for long. Because to get really into some of that stuff and where it works and where it doesn't work, you kind of have to talk about the whole thing. And I think James Gunn has kind of been allowed to just go out and do whatever he wants here. He's the head of the studio. He gets to sign all this stuff off. I think he needed to be reined in a little bit here. And there were times during this film where it's a pretty lean film. It's like 2 hours long.
Sure.
And I was thinking, this, we've only got 2 hours of this. And this is what we want to spend our time doing. We want to be doing this, which I realize is very vague. But yeah, it didn't land as well as I wanted it to, and I found a lot of the action to be a little bit underwhelming. Like it didn't feel grounded in any kind of reality.
Interesting.
It was just a cartoon to me. It was a cartoon. It was fun. I had a lot of fun with it. Don't get me wrong. It was fun. It wasn't what I was expecting, and that's fine. Like, it's absolutely fine. A lot of people love this film. I'm not saying it should be different to please me or anything like that. I'm just saying it wasn't what I was expecting, and it's maybe not exactly what I want from my Superman. Like, I want maybe a slightly more emotional, kind of resembles, it formed in some kind of reality that I can touch. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. As you can see, I'm struggling here, Chris, because I really wanted to like it. And I can't help the fact that I came out of the cinema going, okay, I guess that was the new Superman.
Well, perhaps to your credit, Alex, I think I would have probably felt similar if I had not come into contact recently with the Reeve franchise, because those films admittedly are actually very slight and very light on their feet. And surprisingly, even though they say they're big stakes, they actually feel like kind of like small stake, big budget TV shows to me. So I actually expected that exact tone to be replicated here in Gunn's version of Superman. And I was actually surprised. I had a kind of a different reaction to you, where I did find the emotional, foot in the door, if you will. And yeah, you're completely right. It does have the typical James Gunn tropes of that sort of Guardians-esque humor. Although I disagree. I do feel like there's a little bit of restraint here, and there are some instincts that Gunn goes against that I think he actually improves upon. I think there's a sequence very early on with Clark Kent and Lois, where they have a sort of like a 10-minute sequence together where they're kind of just talking in an apartment. And that's a really good way of what this movie, I think, does a really good job of, which is avoiding exposition and layering it into the character and conversation quite a lot throughout the film. And I think there's, like, if we're talking about tone here, I think that the Superman manages like a rare balance between irony and heartfelt sincerity. It's both respectful of Superman's long comic book legacy. Not that I'm a big, Superman comic book guy, but of what I kind of know about the character and what we've been in contact with. But it has that retro glow to it, but it's also kind of modernist things. I think it's a really good sort of meet in the middle for where we are with superhero movies at the minute. And its approach is never like grim dark, but it's not purely comedic too. It just kind of finds a sweet spot that I feel like is kind of true to the Superman essence, and it kind of goes back to, I like this version of the character where he's a little bit of a goofball, he's a bit of a softie, but there are moments where we kind of got that from the first original Reeve Superman movie. Remember when he revolves around the Earth when he's overwhelmed with anger, and it's kind of one of the only moments we get in the whole franchise of Reeve like that. And then we kind of get moments like that here too with Corn Sweat, who I think is a great Superman.
He's a lot more emotional, isn't he? He's not afraid to let his emotions fly a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
he's a slightly angrier Superman, but not in like a dark way, in just a kind of like frustration out of just like I don't know if anybody has seen the clip that was released prior to the film coming out where he storms into Lex Luthor's base or office and kind of goes like, "Where's the dog? Where's the dog?" And it's like, whoa, Superman's shouty and he's kicking stuff around. But it's like David Corenswet is really good here. Like, I won't deny. Like, there's still a lot I like about this film, and David Corenswet's one of them. He's a very likable Superman. He's a very boyish Superman. I don't think he has the stoicism that Christopher Reeve had, and then obviously Henry Cavill had almost too much stoicism when it came to portraying him in the Man of Steel and the Batman v Superman films. But he's got a boyish charm to him and a dorkiness, which I do kind of like. There were times when I thought maybe it was like a little bit too much. Like I want my Superman to be more kind of, I don't know, a little bit more postured about things, and maybe is able to temper some of those frustrations and kind of use that emotion to his better. I don't know. There were just times when I was like, oh, this is a different take on Superman, which is fine. That is fine. And the scene that you mentioned earlier with very early on in the film where we get Lois Lane interviewing Superman and they're both kind of in on it. Both, he's facing some like real criticism from a person he loves. He also allows a lot of, allows for a lot of exposition to happen within that scene.
Mm-hmm.
I did love that. And I will say I loved the first half of this film. I was really in it. I liked being dropped in the action. You get like a nice little bit at the start that says like 3 years ago, Superman came out to the world as Superman. 3 months ago, was it? I can't remember what it was 3 months ago, but I know like 3 months ago he properly revealed himself to Lois Lane. 3 weeks ago, he got himself involved in the Bravia conflict, and then 3 minutes ago he lost his first fight. Like, I liked that. Cool. That was cool stuff. You kind of like catching up with it as you go, and that's kind of fun because you're more engaged as an audience member, trying to be like, oh, so this has happened, blah blah blah.
Well, it's also all that kind of stuff. It's also, we've seen this story in multiple iterations, and we know the story of Krypton blowing up and how he got to the planet Earth. But so like there's a world where James Gunn could have made this movie 2.5 hours. And I like the way he likes to spend time on other things that I feel like kind of only aid in the pacing, and the pacing is constant for this movie. I feel like the movie never really kind of stops in a good way. By the time when the credits rolled, I was like, oh my god, this thing's over already. So that's really cool. I had it going for it. I kind of do. I really did. I
think there was a bit near the end where I was like, I looked at my watch. I was like, we have like half an hour left. I was like, oh, this conflict that we've been dropped into is all we're doing. Like, this is it.
Well, like, that's the thing. It's surprisingly actually in tone with the original Superman movies, and and the scope, where the scope is big stakes, but it's small. Like, there's a lot of characters here. And
a lot, yeah.
There's a lot of characters here, but like the stakes are pretty. The stakes are high, but we know where we are at all times. We're cutting between side characters. We're cutting between Superman and his eventual conflict. We're cutting between our villain. Yet, what Marvel kind of failed to do a lot for me was to kind of manage those things and kind of give me the geography and like make me understand who's where and what's that person's motivation at all times. I never found that a struggle here. I always knew where everybody was and what they needed to do. And the tension kind of stayed sustained for me. Yes, it kind of leans into like that third act thing that all superhero movies do, where they're kind of 10 minutes too long. I'll give you that. But I was enjoying it enough, and I thought we got enough dynamicism from Corenswet in his character, where I've seen him get the shit beat out of him so much in this movie, and that also really surprised me.
It is a Superman who is not as invincible as we've seen him before. He's a slightly toned down, still probably the strongest character in this world, and somebody who, you know, is to be feared due to his ridiculous amount of strength and powers, but you can make him bleed.
I think it's well justified in the story as well. Like in the world building, that we get peripheral characters as well as Lex Luthor, and you have the sense because you're being dropped in the world that has existed with Superman for quite a few years now. You understand that the world is kind of adapted around Superman to kind of like, well, the people that might not want him to succeed have found ways to maybe kind of like upgrade themselves so that they can at least not maybe match him, but in a large enough number can replicate his sort of level of power, which is why maybe if we seen an origin story, we would have seen him kicking ass a lot more. We're seeing
he has 3 years without losing a fight.
Exactly.
As far as we're aware.
Exactly. I guess can we talk about performances without spoiling?
Yeah, I think that's probably the next best place to go before diving into specifics.
Well,
are you on the same page as me when it comes to Nicholas Hoult and potentially him being the MVP of this film?
He's great. He finds this is so tricky of Lex Luthor because every time Hollywood has a go at him, I think the Gene Hackman shadow looms really large and would be the wrong tone for this movie. And Nicholas Hoult isn't.
Do some things. They do very close. They're not too far away from the Gene Hackman nature of Lex. But this is a man who is a lot more. There's a lot more anger and envy and jealousy involved in his hatred of Superman than maybe.
It's pure vanity and nothing else. Yeah.
So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
No, you're so right. I'm just riffing on that really because I love, and it's so great that we got to watch the original 4 movies because we get like, oh, I recognize what they're doing with Miss Tessmacher. I know who that character is, and it's kind of cool that they're, he didn't. I think there is a world where Gunn could have like left some of those characters out, and the general audience, myself included, would have been none the wiser. But it kind of served less of a fan service thing because I don't think the movie's kind of completely obsessed with that. But I do feel like it was charming at least.
Yeah.
And I think Nicholas Hoult, just like he is Lex Luthor, is a standout villain. He's a megalomaniac, billionaire. He feels disturbingly relevant to today's world. He definitely does echo certain real life tech moguls.
he's clearly smart. He clearly has the money to do some crazy, amazing things,
like build pocket universes.
And there's more as well, which again we can't get into. But you just think like, dude, if you applied this to helping the world, you would be a hero. Right?
Yes, this is a different Lex from Gene Hackman, where like Gene Hackman was like, "Look at me, I am so smart," but really, it's all swagger and brain second. Where this guy is like an asshole, and he's top like 0.001% intelligent people on the planet. Yeah,
I honestly thought Nicholas Hoult was my favorite performance in this. I was blown away by him as Lex Luthor. I thought he was fantastic. He brought so much like vitriol to the performance that I just I was surprised. I didn't think he was going to be bad or anything like that, but I wasn't expecting to be blown away by him, and maybe more so than like other characters. But like, no, I think everybody puts in a good performance here. I think there's just like some story stuff that I wasn't. And maybe some story stuff and some visual stuff, which I was like, "Oh, that's what we're doing." Okay, this is not what I fully expected it to be.
Yeah, well, we'll get into that in the spoiler section. I also wanted just to give a shout out to Rachel Brosnahan. I'm a big fan of her in the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel series. I know you hadn't watched it yourself, but yeah, she's great. And I think Lois Lane. I think we both came into the same sort of problem with the Reeve films, where we kind of find her a little bit too spiky. And I know that's kind of inbuilt to the character, but there is also a certain amount of callousness that we kind of came into contact a little bit with those movies. But I thought here we were able to keep that spikiness, but also, an emotional intelligence to her that kind of made her seem that like, right, okay, yes, she's invested in a relationship with technically a super meta-human alien, but she is Clark's intellectual equal. And so kind of, yeah, they both had really good chemistry on screen, is what I'm badly trying to say.
No, not badly at all. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I don't think Rachel Brosnahan was able to wow as much as, like, I think there are moments where David Corenswet and Nicholas Hoult really get like moments to shine.
Sure.
And I don't think she gets a big moment. Like there's not a big moment where we go, wow, that was the Lois Lane moment. I think she's really good in this. You're right. I'm glad that the kind of the emotional intelligence and the real world intelligence come together. It was maybe only something that was kind of lacking in the first Christopher Reeve Superman film for me.
Yeah.
Lois maybe slightly, I don't want to say ditzy because she's never ditzy, but she kind of like, there's a bit of manicness to it that she always gets herself into these situations, which was like just a little bit irritating. But here, yeah, I mean, Lois is, like you say, she's an intellectual equal. We don't have to go through the whole kind of, she doesn't know who Superman is and all that kind of stuff.
Yes, which was a problem that we had post Superman 2 entering 3 and 4.
This is what we wanted to see at the end of Superman 2, was them to carry on this relationship, fully aware of all the context surrounding Clark Kent and how they kind of go ahead with that relationship. So, yeah, I was happy to see that here. It does mean you don't really get a lot of Clark Kent in this movie. Like,
sure,
he maybe gets one
and he's
scene
he's good
where
he's Clark Kent. Yeah,
he's good, but he only kind of gets like one moment where he's having to kind of hide his alter ego to the world. The rest of the time he's pretty much suited up. He's suited up for a lot of this film. He is Superman for majority of this film.
Yeah, I mean, like I do think that Gunn does a lot of heavy lifting with that early scene with them two in the apartment. And I think that's because that we traded the whole origin story stuff in at the beginning, which I think is a good. I mean, like, I know where that's going to go. We're going to get Clark Kent going into the Daily Planet and kind of fumbling his way around, and we know where that story is going to go. It's the whole Peter Parker and the Daily Bugle thing, and like, it's fine. I don't need that that much, and I'm kind of glad that it became just kind of like the guy in the suit movie for the most part, and we got what we needed to. And I think the movie does that with every character, where we just get a scene or two that is lean and establishes the universe and the characters. That's a personal preference thing. I enjoyed like not having too much lore stuffed into here. Not too much Jor-El speaking in Krypton.
That might be a spoiler.
Is it spoiler?
I'll bleep it out.
Well, yeah. If anybody who's seen the other movies will know that like that's how the movies start. But
it's the casting that you mentioned.
Is that a spoiler?
I think that's a spoiler. Yeah.
I mean, like, it's fine.
I've bleeped it. Nobody else knows. Okay.
Okay. I also really like a character who was kind of just there in the other films. Jimmy Olsen, played by Skylar Gisondo. I really like him in every movie that I see him in. He's really fun. He's perfectly cast. He adds a comedic charm, especially in certain scenes with a certain villain, certain someone. So yeah, like he's a lot of fun and adds depth to a character that I wasn't really expecting to see a lot of depth from. The Justice Gang. Whatever.
Yeah.
What are they alluding to there? Guy Gardner, one of the Green Lanterns, and Mr. Terrific and Hawk Girl. You know them?
Yeah.
That sounds like I said hot girl. Hawk Girl. Like
and a hot girl! Yes, Chris. Her name is Hawk Girl. Okay. They're a great addition. I did enjoy that. I've seen a lot of people say that like potentially this film was too stuffed with characters. I think they all work to service the plot. So I don't my problem with this film is not an over bloatedness. Like that stuff's all fine. I like their kind of contradiction to Superman in terms of the fact that they are not kind of beholden by this idea that like you can't kill, and it's just like we just need to sort out the situation here and now. We don't need to worry about anything else. It's a good juxtaposition to have with them. They're also a very corporate led superhero team. where and this is a world in which metahumans have been around for 300 years. So
yeah, they're kind of like
Superman is different in the term of the like he works for himself and he just stops things because they need to be stopped and because that's what he feels is the right thing to do.
They're kind of goofy as well.
They are goofy. There's a lot of fun to be had with those guys.
I mean, they kind of reminded me of side characters from like The Incredibles or something like that.
Yeah.
They just, you get Guy Gardner comes in with his bowl cut and Mr. Terrific on his chair with his floating orbs coming around him. And it's just like, it's played as a joke at the beginning and it's a good one.
Mr. Terrific is great. A lot of people really praising E.D. Kathigi's performance here. He's fantastic. Like there's no doubt.
I've never seen him before in anything. I'm new to him.
He is in X-Men First Class.
Okay, so I would have seen him. Yeah.
I think the character is called Darwin, where he can adapt to never die, and then the first amount of peril they're in, somebody kills him immediately. So like they never really lives up to that character's powers or name.
That's incredible.
Which was a little bit of disappointment for everybody, I think, including him. I think he was told, I saw in an interview recently, he said he was told that he would be coming back in the X-Men films and then just never got the call. And it just seems like such a shame because here he is just playing Mr. Terrific and for a lot of people, he steals the show.
He's great, and he looks like he's jumped out of the roster for like Overwatch or something like that. There's a lot of fun characters. We're missing the biggest. Like, come on, we're missing the obvious one. Crypto, the super dog.
We are very much in that comic book world where, and James Gunn clearly loves this age of comic books where maybe they just got a little too much. And you had super this and super that and super everything. And he really leans into it here, which is fair. Like, he's clearly a fan of that stuff. I prefer it when our superhero stuff is like a little bit more stripped back. I liked Crypto. Don't get me wrong. I liked
Crypto.
It's odd. It's an odd addition to this film. And there are times when I do feel that Superman's kind of frustration with Crypto kind of works against this idea that he is like always this lovely kind guy, and I don't find the relationship to be without going to spoilers. There is one moment where he's like, I need to help Crypto because he's just a dog. There's a minute early on where he leaves the Fortress of Solitude and Crypto's crying. And he's just like, he doesn't give it a second thought. And I was like, oh man, if Cody was crying, I'd be back in the house.
I don't subscribe to that, Alex. There's a sequence where I was like, where David Corenswet had me in the palm of his super strong, sweaty hands, where he saves a squirrel. And I was like, okay, this guy is awesome.
Yeah, okay. I liked that moment too. Don't get me wrong. If anything, we needed more of that. And
there's that Raimi Spider-Man sort of stuff in here too that we like, and there's a little bit, especially at the beginning.
There's a little bit.
The Community Man in there, it's there was enough. I think Gunn did a lot with those 2 hours. That was pretty jam-packed, but I had a lot of fun.
I think, considering how much the marketing has been like, this is all about hope and optimism, and this is the Superman represents all these things. I think that Superman didn't actually do enough to be challenged on those things in order for him to become this symbol of being hopeful and optimistic and the best person in the world. So I think there needed to be more of that, and I didn't feel like that was maybe earned.
I will agree. I think also there has been, not to get too political, there has been a lot of heavy right-wing media that has kind of been saying that this movie is woke before they've even seen it. And yes.
Are you trying to say that I don't like this film because Superman?
No, not at all. But I'm saying there has been a lot of expectation built up amongst everybody that this movie is politically minded. Now, there are elements.
Oh, it definitely is.
There exactly. There are elements, but I don't feel like Gunn is making, it's not completely all about that. I don't think a Gunn fully commits to it all the time because he's making an entertainment movie at the end of the day. But there are obvious parallels that we can make.
Very, and I think at times maybe just too simplistic. But then again, is James Gunn making a film for 31-year-old me? No, probably not. You know, like, this is a film to inspire the kids.
I think it's a film for everybody, to be honest.
Okay.
I know, I do. I do. Maybe we shouldn't, like, you know, these fictional countries of Moravia and Jararapur. Yeah, is that right? Yeah. I don't think that, you know, that's enough for a kid to handle. I think, you know, I think the Hunger Games does things like that really well, and kind of introducing political, you know, dictatorships and all that sort of thing in a way that's kind of like simple to understand, but adults can enjoy too. And I think this kind of does something similar. Yeah, and something you can root for. Like, you kind of want to, you know, cheer whenever it goes the right way at the end of it. I just think it comes down to, like, expectation. I think my expectations were a lot lower. I wasn't as heavily kind of following the marketing as much. Like, I hadn't seen the scene where Superman busted in on Lex Luthor angry. So that was a surprise to me when I saw that, and I kind of took my breath away whenever I saw that for the first time. So I came away just kind of really enjoying the movie a lot. Like, another James Gunn movie that I think is done, like, really well. I think I'll put it that way. And I enjoy all of Gunn's, like, superhero iterations. And this is another one. I think it's really cool. I think it has a different sort of look to it, a different sort of sheen. It's a version of Superman that I really like.
I am fine with it. It is fine. It did not break the wheel of superhero films in a way that I thought that it was kind of going for.
Sure.
I don't think it brought enough new to the table to make me say, like, oh, DC is back and I can't wait for another superhero universe, and kind of following it from the start. If anything, this it feels like it has a lot of the same DNA as The Flash. It doesn't feel much like too far afield from what they were kind of going for in terms of tone there. And that is a film which I think I have said on record that I did enjoy. So there you go. There is that. I didn't love it, but you know, and I'm kind of here with Superman. Like, it was fine. And to really get into it and tell you all the reasons why it didn't super work for me, or why I found some elements frustrating, then we are going to have to get into spoilers.
Let's do it. Let's go into it.
Okay, everyone.
Spoiler warning. I was going to say alert, but that's better.
Say alert.
Spoiler alert.
There we go. Spoilers starting now. All right. First of all,
this movie is dog shit.
No, definitely not. All right. This is one thing I've been wanting to speak to you about, and not something that I've seen too many other people chatting about. However, because we just recently did the Superman rankings and we went through all the old Christopher Reeve films, were you as surprised as me that this shared the most DNA with Superman 4: Quest for Peace?
You see, I see the DNA of all four movies in this quite equally spread. Give me your pitch.
Okay, so in Superman 4: Quest for Peace, Superman decides that he's going to throw all the nuclear weapons into the sun. Now, this is a thing that where he is actively involving himself in global politics,
sure,
and the repercussions of that are kind of like, should you have the power to just be able to do that, or should you be more about inspiring other people to do that? Now, in this film, he gets involved in global politics by, I guess, trying to stop the war between Moravia and, I can't remember the name.
Jararapur, I think.
Jararapur, which is a combination of the Israeli-Palestine conflict and a combination of the Russia-Ukraine politics. Like, I dug all that. Your head of state of Moravia is kind of like Putin and Netanyahu combined.
It's the Russian guy from 2012.
Yeah, like the ugliness of both those guys, like, personifies physically a mess of a dictator. Obviously, it's a bigger country invading a smaller country. That's Russia, Ukraine all over. But then there's the element of, like, when you go more into kind of the conflict. Jarapur is a more Middle Eastern kind of conflict. They have almost no weapons. They are really kind of the little man here. Like, it is Palestine. And brave he is, Israel. There is no doubt about it. There is no doubt about it. It's cool to see it on film. There is no doubt. You know, I love that kind of stuff. It's great. Anyway, I've gone on too far on that because what I also want to say is in that film, it's thrown about whether Superman should just be kind of forcing himself into these conflicts, and at the end of the film, it's more about he should be inspiring other people to stand up, i.e., the Justice Gang, get involved on that side instead, while Superman sorts out the threat at Metropolis. So that. Then we also have Lex Luthor has created a character called Ultraman, who just so happens to be created from a strand of Superman's hair and is a clone of Superman, who's not really as good as Superman, but just as powerful, but he is like easier to control and a little bit dumber. He is Nuclear Man.
At least he wasn't blonde and in spandex.
There's a little bit of blonde in his hair. When he takes that mask off, there's a little bit of blonde in its long moppy hair. I'm just saying, this was Superman 4, but done better and differently, right?
Yes, yeah. I don't think Lex got the hair from a museum.
No, he was scraping it from
his pillow.
Scraping it from sites where Superman had been involved in previous conflicts. So that was quite funny. I liked that. So yeah, I was surprised. I was surprised they had gone down that route. It also begs to question, like, if Lex Luthor can create his own Superman, which obviously is without all the kind of morality and stuff that he's had from his upbringing, which obviously plays a big part in the film, then surely that's good enough, right? Why do we have to do all this other stuff? Like, just make 2 Supermen, make 3 Supermen.
Well, he kind of explains in the moment that the kind of Superman cloning kind of fucked up a little bit. And yeah, maybe even Lex had a little bit of restraint not to like maybe do it multiple times and like be the whole like God creating his children and then the children killing him. Maybe that's a justification that could be made.
Maybe,
but it's also the guy that opened a rift in the middle of the earth and was refusing to close it. So yeah, there's a little bit of that too. I get that, but I mean, like, you're suspending disbelief and for things that aren't there, and I'm happy enough to go along with these things.
That's fine. I'm being silly more than anything there, but I do think that I was a little surprised. I thought this was Superman 4, right? Have I made the right point? Global politics, clone of Superman. Except Superman 4.
Except Superman 4 was completely dull and didn't have any life in it. But yeah, I also like seeing Superman 3 a lot there too, because although, you know, the Eve Tessmasker character, although she was like, you know, an iteration of Lex's like right hand woman, she's more based on the ditzy blonde in the third movie. Which I thought was quite interesting. So they literally blended those 2 characters together, which was a lot of fun. Actually, it wasn't just like we're copy and pasting those characters straight into this movie.
Yeah, I wasn't going to bring this point up straight away. I was going to go into more points, but since we're on Eve, I found her characterization and the comedy around that, I found it a little mean-spirited at times, and I think there are a few female characters in this film that, like, and I appreciate that even the men have their bad apples and have their little quirks and funny things that we're supposed to laugh at, but there felt a slight more kind of mean-spirited nature towards Eve that I was like, this is making Jimmy Olsen look like a bit of a dick. Like, he's, you know, she's in this very abusive relationship.
Well,
the moment where Lex finds her, he still blows it off as like, she probably just dropped her phone down the toilet and stuff like this. And I was like, man, this is, you know, we're traipsing into some kind of dark stuff here when Lex drags her out of that cupboard. I just thought, I'm not sure, like, I get that it's supposed to be funny, that Jimmy Olsen just physically wants nothing to do with her. But I thought maybe I don't know. I found it a little bit mean. The comedy was a little bit mean there.
I think it works in both ways, actually. I think you're right. I think it is mean-spirited to begin with. But then your reaction that you had was similar to the reaction I had. And I think that's an honest reaction, which is empathy for her. And I actually, and that is a feeling I think that is on purpose with the film. And I think even that Olsen's character has at the end of the film, that he has a realization that she's actually like a good person, and that like the embrace that they have at the end is kind of like, okay, I have been a dick, and she's actually like a pretty, like I do feel like there's a bit of recognition there.
Maybe a tiny bit, but the reaction is still a little bit like, I don't really want to spend this weekend with you.
We're also leaning into the tradition and the trope of the character too. So, like, I mean, who am I to say? I'm getting.
Yes, I've since softened on this point because I was watching a few people on TikTok talk about how the women in this film actively use the misogyny of real world situations to kind of like underplay their importance. So like Eve is always taking selfies and she comes across as this ditzy blonde that Lex just isn't even like doesn't even think of her as a threat, that at the time she is taking all these selfies of important documents and stuff
she
like
is
that.
Secretly,
and she's using that to play against that. But I don't know, there was just part of me that found that character. You had the character of Cat Grant in the Daily Planet, which, and again, I might just be a pervert, but I thought the camera was a bit leery on her and her very low cut top at times. And women are allowed to wear low cut tops. That's fine. I'm not saying there's anything against that. But like, I went on TikTok after the film, and there were already people making jokes about the scene where she's jumping up and down in slow motion. Okay, so I was like,
wow, okay, your TikTok's different to mine, Alex.
What are you trying to say? I'm just saying the camera was a little bit leery at times. And then you have the introduction of Supergirl at the end, which I know is probably all gonna play out in her own film next year. But as soon as we're introduced to her, she's drunk, she's all over the place, and she's just like, "Thanks for looking at my dog, bitch." And I just thought, like, oh man, this is 2025. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's the privilege of me being a white guy, and I didn't have that sort of perspective or see that cruelty up front. I did go with Lauren, and she didn't bump into any of those issues. I mean, I'd be happy. I would like to read the opinion of more female perspective on that and see how that goes. But
that's my feeling as well, which is why I did seek out some, and why my point on especially Eve has softened is because of some kind of different people's opinion pieces on why that character was the way she was, in a way which kind of made me go, okay, I might just be being too woke about this.
But I'm also not being defensive about it, because I really have no reason to kind of support or kind of stand by anything in this movie. It just my opinion at the end of the day. But when I think of all the male characters as well, I think everybody kind of gets made fun of at some point. I think everybody kind of gets, like, even Lex, even Superman, even the all the guys in the Justice Squad. I think everybody kind of gets Jimmy himself. Yeah. I think they all get made to look a little bit silly in this movie. Yes. Maybe actually the only one that doesn't is Lois. So I think maybe because that certain kind of tradition of like pointing the finger at those female characters makes it obvious. But I think everybody gets a little run for their money somewhere in this movie.
I agree. And yeah, like I said, I have slightly softened on that point. So my other point I wanted to make was, I feel like a lot of this stuff is rehashed from different Guardians films that I've seen before.
Sure. Especially the Kryptonite guy. He was very Guardians, yeah.
He was very Guardians coded, but I just thought like the idea that Superman's actual parents, which is a story beat like I kind of liked, is playing with the lore a little bit there. I'm sure there are some fans that are not happy that it's revealed that there's another half to the message sent to Superman from Jor-El, and we should all know Superman's mum's name, but I don't actually know.
Susan,
which I bleeped it out earlier, played by Bradley Cooper Jor-El, and it's Lara Law Van who plays that's who Angela Sarafian.
Yes, I remember her very well from Westworld. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So those guys play Superman's parents from Krypton. He is only able to receive the first half of this message, where they're just like, "You're going to Earth. We love you, and be the savior." And he kind of thinks that is like basically the main message of the message. The main message of the message doesn't make sense, but that's fine. We'll go with that. It is the engineer gets involved there, which, to be fair, the engineer doesn't get made fun of as a female character. She has she's pretty good at what she does, I think. Mm-hmm. She goes in there. She's able to retrieve the second half of this message, where basically they say, or at least we're believed. I don't know whether this is. I guess it's true. I guess it's true that the second half of this message was
because Mr. Terrific gives some like offhand line about saying, "Believe me, I work in this field. If the government are saying it's true, then it's true." But I in the moment it works. Sure. Like,
yeah, it's fine. Basically they say Superman will send you here, rule over this world, take as many women as you want, and just restart Krypton for us, will you?
Well, which as a viewer, which was actually quite like it was quite stimulating to see that happening on screen, because even I was like, is this? Like, even I was having the confusion the characters were having, and it was like quite alarming when actually it turned out that this was the true message and it wasn't just a fabrication from Lex. That worked. Yeah,
and I like, in principle, it allows for Superman to be like, well, actually, it's not just because I've been told to be good; it's because I've learned to be good, and that I choose to be good. And I like that element of the message. However, I did feel like, this is very similar to Star-Lord idolizing his dad, only to find out that he's an evil maniac, and actually his real father all along was this other kind of adopted father figure that he had that truly brought him up.
The friends we made along the way.
Yeah. So okay, we're doing a very similar thing that we've had to it's Martha and Jonathan Kent. Like, they are the real parents, but we don't really spend that much time with those guys again. So, like, it was good in principle, but I just needed more groundwork laid for me there. And then a lot of the action as well. Like, there's an action scene with Mr. Terrific where we kind of focus on Lois while she's in this force field, and we kind of circle around as Mr. Terrific's whistling ball things go flying everywhere. Very similar to a few action scenes from the Guardians films, and very similar to the little Mohawk arrow that Michael Rooker has, Yondu has. Like, I was like, okay, I've kind of seen this action before. Then when we're in the not the parallel universe, what's it called? The pocket universe. That's very Guardians of the Galaxy. It's kind of wacky. The river's made out of cubes and we're saving alien babies and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It was at that moment I was like, this looks silly. Like, I didn't think the CGI in that... Well, the CGI looks good, but it looks goofy. And I think we were like halfway through the film at this point, and we're in this river of Minecraft cubes, and Superman's like flying around.
Minecraft, yeah.
And I was just like, is this... Like, I was like, we don't have that long left. Like, is this what we're doing with the new Superman film? We haven't had a Superman film since Man of Steel. A lot of people will say we haven't had a good Superman film since the 70s. So this is the 2 hours we're spending the new Superman film. This is what we're doing. And I was just like, I'm not sure about this. I'm not sure. And it was starting to lose me. And the action scenes just didn't land for me here. We alluded to it at the end of last week. This kind of flying camera just doesn't always look right. It looks a bit video gamey. And I thought there was too much of it here.
Okay.
Nothing kind of landed for me. I was getting a little bit lost in some of the action scenes. And yeah, it just wasn't landing for me. It wasn't landing for me. Wow. I think that's my main thing. Sorry, I kind of went on.
No. It's just so interesting. But like, I don't know. I don't know if it's something like I saw this in the IMAX format, so I got the full sort of like height of this. And this is a very tall movie, actually. So yeah, I never really found an issue with the action scenes. I actually thought it dealt with the action scenes in quite a interesting way. I did feel like the sense of speed from Superman. This I think the sound design is a really big part of that too. I mean, sure, like sometimes maybe the close-ups on Corn Sweat aren't completely perfect, but you know, I kind of leaned into it as the movie went on, and I actually find it quite effective. I quite like the Pocket Universe sequence. I know it is ripped straight out of Guardians, but it helped me kind of like understand and add tension to a world that operate. What does the world do? What do the bad people do whenever Superman is out of the way, and we see it like the country of Baravia, who say, "Oh, we want to protect Jarapur." No, all that false sort of posturing. As soon as the guard, the Earth's guardian is put away in a different parallel universe, they go straight into invasion mode. So there's just, and also the kryptonite stuff, and like Superman's looking, he's got boils over his face. I thought there was really good tension established in that sequence. And also we get to spend time with Mr. Terrific, a character he, at the start, I thought we were only going to see once or twice, ended up becoming a pretty big character. So it was great spending time with him. So yeah, like I didn't mind it. I just thought the whole thing was like, I was having so much fun that I didn't really care. I will say that I love the way that the character is Superman's always learning. I love, like, we mentioned the scene twice already, but whenever he does drop in on Lex and he's screaming about the dog, and you were saying earlier on, it's like, but this is a Superman who's kind of learning in the moment. He's realizing in that moment that his strength can't solve everything. That he's screaming and shouting, and Lex has got the camera on him. He's like, "Yeah, go on, keep bashing up the room. Just see what that does for you. See what that does for your image." And you're kind of seeing him realize in that moment, like, he's so frustrated. I got all this power in the world. I could smash this whole building right now, but I would lose. And that was quite cool. Like, that was like one of the best moments in the movie for me. I just think that Gunn does a lot with not that much time. I thought he manages to kind of hit a lot of beats pretty well. I mean, like, this movie doesn't have me sobbing at the end of it, but I've seen a lot worse superhero movies in the last couple of years, and I had a lot of fun.
No, I agree. There have been a lot worse superhero films. I think there was just so much expectation put on this one, which, maybe unfairly. I get that.
Sure.
But I feel like a lot of people wanted to love this. And I just don't feel it.
It's a hard property, isn't it? It's a hard superhero to kind of to cater and for everybody. And I think Gunn does try his best to cater to old audiences and new audiences and comic book audiences and Reeve audiences. And I think the soup could have been a lot worse.
I get that. I just think, like, this idea that this is the most hopeful, most optimistic, most amazing kind of beautiful superhero film of all time, just it doesn't work for me. I don't. And there are moments where it really wants to be that. There's a moment at the end where Superman himself kind of monologues towards Lex, talking about how his human vulnerability is like his greatest strength. And I was just thinking, like, first of all, I don't feel like you've earned this. I don't feel like you've been challenged enough on this. Like, he's never put in a situation where it's like, you have to save this person or this person. I mean, I guess there's an element at the end where it's like, you can help with the war in Baravia, or you can save the world. Well, obviously you have to save the world, but at the same time, I have some friends who can go sort out the stuff in Baravia. It's not like I can do everything at once. I almost wanted in that scene where Lex, in probably one of the darkest moments in the film, Lex in the Pocket Universe brings out somebody that Superman has had like a very fleeting relationship with, a passerby on the street, somebody whose food he has eaten and saved once.
Yeah.
And he plays a game of Russian roulette with him while Superman is, metamorphose, creating kryptonite in that cell for him. He can't break out. He's very, very weak. And Russian roulette lasts about 2 rounds, and this civilian is killed in front of Superman. And there was part of me that was like, first of all, that is an excellent scene. I really liked it, but there was part of me that was like, I feel like my Superman, and this is silly, I know, because I'm projecting my own vision of Superman onto it, but my Superman would have found a way to fight through the kryptonite and save that guy. He wouldn't have been on the floor. Even if he had not been able to save that guy, there's something about him. He should have been able to get up. He should have, the will and the strength of being the person who saves everybody and nobody dies. He should have found a way. I don't know. I'm just like, there was me that was just like, something should happen there. But I don't know. I bring all this expectation to Superman, but at the same time, I don't know what I want from a Superman film. I don't know, but this just wasn't it. I'm sorry.
That's absolutely, dude. That is absolutely fine. You're in a safe space here to voice your opinion about what's in it.
I'm not. When this goes out in the world, I'm not.
No, there's a lot of people that agree with you. Honestly, I think the camp is kind of split on this movie. I don't agree with a lot of people that think that this movie is like the most hopeful thing in the world. I don't don't think the movie is as self-important as people are making it to be. I think it's too fun to be that a lot of the time. I do think it has those things on its mind, but it's not, it's not completely concerned entirely by them.
What did you think of the monologue at the end? Like, it's good in principle. It's good in principle. Again, like, a lot of these things I like in principle, but I just don't feel like they land, which is like the thing I'm just going to keep saying over and over again. I get that. But yeah, what did you think of that monologue?
Yeah, I think it hit in the moment. I think for me it worked. Again, I was wrapped up for the ride, so and I thought Lex was, there was a lot of catharsis at the end of that movie, and a lot of anger that felt like it kind of was earned. Yeah,
I feel like weird that it's Superman saying it about himself.
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of like spelling out the whole theme of the film. I don't know. It didn't work for me.
Think of the squirrel, Alex.
But at the same time, I will think of the squirrel. The squirrel's good. Very cartoon squirrel. But he, in like David Corenswet sells it. Like, he's great. I love him saying it. I love the monologue in that sense of like as a soundbite. Great, but I keep saying the same thing. So.
The movie should have ended. Who am I? Well, I'm Superman.
You sure you want to know?
Anyway,
oh man, I don't know. It's just like I thought this was going to be the film that was like superhero films are here to stay. Like, you're not bored of them yet, baby. Like, DC is back, and who knows? Maybe it's going to be better than Marvel. But I've kind of left it going like, oh, okay, this is the direction of the new DC universe. Fine, we'll see if superhero fatigue takes it out, because I don't think for me it has done enough to kind of bring me out of that slump.
That's fair enough, Alex. You should just go into every superhero movie forever now, like me, and just say, okay, what have you got?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Maybe I should.
But there you go. There's a slightly different skew on the Alex and Kris superhero relationship for a change.
And differing opinions.
Differing opinion. I mean,
on a film that is widely loved. Well, oh no, is it Wicked all over again? Why am I the bad guy again?
Look, at the very least, we're not afraid to politely disagree.
Absolutely. I am so happy that you enjoyed this, Kris, and I am happy whoever else enjoyed this film. I'm happy. Like, I'm not trying to turn this film into some kind of selfish thing where I'm like, it should have been like this because then it would have appealed to me more. Do you know what? If it's appealing to people, then great. If it was appealing to no one, then I'd be more angry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the fact that it is appealing to people is great. So I just missed something.
Well, it's a gut feeling, and your gut didn't feel it, so that's not anything to be sad about or be ashamed of. That's it didn't work for you as a viewer, so the movie failed for you. Well, not completely, but on that level. So that's completely valid.
Yeah. Shall we go from this big, very modern, the latest film,
the latest,
big, bright and colourful, the latest and greatest, to a smaller, much older,
very old, crusty, one would say.
Crusty. Okay, let's get into this. So this is the section of the show where we catch up with our ongoing series of the Sight and Sound greatest films of all time lists. Up until this point, we've been doing our blind spots, but now that we've gotten to the top 10 of the list, we are just doing all of them. But that being said, this one just so happens to be a blind spot for both of us anyway. So this is number 9 according to the Letterboxd list, and it is Dziga Vertov's Man with a Movie Camera. 1929. It is a USSR film, so this is when the Russian Empire was more than just kind of the Russia that we know today. I believed it was Poland, Ukraine, all of that was part of the USSR, right?
Yeah, and this film is filmed in 3 cities, although it's kind of orchestrated to look like one city, but it was shot in Moscow, Odessa, and Kiev. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So this is known as a documentary. It is a bit of an experiment.
Heard of it?
I don't know why I said it like that.
This is why.
Because the thing is, it is a documentary, but I wonder if Vertov himself would have been like disgusted at that word of documentary, because
I don't think so.
His whole idea for this film was to go out and make a film that was purely cinematic. His whole ethos was he was very anti what he would call fiction films. He disliked the idea that I guess film had been around for about 30 years at this point, maybe less, and it had very much incorporated theater and literature. We were making stories, and he was like, no, film should be a completely different medium. We should be using the camera to it was something weird. I've got it somewhere here in my notes where it talks about like unassuming real life.
I think he was kind of thinking that, theater and more traditional methods of entertainment were kind of betraying the Marxist, communism ideals of like depicting real life and the situations between rich and poor, and he wanted to kind of blend everything together and kind of depict it in a realistic way.
And also the way that just the way that a shot is composed, the way that what we're looking on screen, like there is nothing in this film that is telling you what to feel, telling you what to think. You are, the film is projecting these images, but you are putting onto it your own kind of thoughts and feelings and story in a way. You are saying, oh, this shot relates with this because we're trying to show the kind of the cogs in the machine of kind of a modern city, or like what would have been a modern city in 1929, this kind of capitalistic machine and how it runs and how we go from the early hours to it being like this quiet place, and then the place wakes up and then the machine has to work, and that's how life goes on. And when that dies down, we are entertained, we go out, we do our own things, we get fitter, we get drunker, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it incorporates almost like a day in the life of this city, which is, as we know, 3 different cities. It's really interesting.
Do you know what I get out of this film when I watch movies like
this? That might be completely different, I guess, how you felt.
Do you know what I get out of watching movies like this, and I'm seeing sort of realistic vignettes and snapshots of like how people used to live their lives? I'm so glad I don't live in 1929. if my life was getting my hands grubby and working my fingers to the bone only to drink gallons of beer in the evening, well, that bit sounds okay, but
that bit does sound okay.
I'm not sure I would have lived very long and would have been very happy. But no, it's fascinating, as a historical document, at least. But no, we're going to get into this movie is like a celebration of the origin of so many techniques that are just used widely today. We got like freeze frames, tracking shots, reverse shots,
double exposure, Dutch angles,
the whole kitchen sink, basically.
The whole thing. And it was almost like watching like a dictionary of cinematic language. Like, I completely agree with his intentions. It might be worth actually reading out what his kind of what do you call it, manifesto for this film was, which we get at the very start. Should I read it out so that people have a better idea?
Please do, loud and clear to the back of the room, please, Alex.
Okay, are you ready? Are you ready? So this film represents an experimentation in the cinematic communication of visual phenomena without the use of intertitles, without the help of a scenario, without the help of theatre. So this new experimentation work is directed towards the creation of an authentically international, absolute language of cinema on the basis of its complete separation from the language of theatre and literature. And for me, that does get you in the headspace of like, all right, I'm reading into this film. This shot represents this. This shot represents that. And we are doing it only on camera alone. And the camera comes into play in this film. The man with the movie camera, you see him in shots. The film shows you how it's being made as it's making the film at times. It's very interesting.
I love the way that, you know, we're talking 1929, so like film as a public place to go see something has really only been commercially available to regular average Joes for like 10 plus years at this point. And we're already kind of like, right, let's already experiment with this. It's already kind of paved the way for what this could be. And he is a pioneer because a lot of the films that we've discussed on the BFI, you know, we're talking about Tarkovsky, or we're talking about French New Wave filmmakers. They're all kind of taking this form of playing with form, and they're kind of taking it to the next level. And perhaps with guys like Vertov, it wouldn't really. He was kind of laughed at back in his day, right? A lot of people, especially like in Western cinematic circles, were kind of shrugged him off and thought he was just like too playful for his own good, and it was all fancy tricks and no substance. But you know,
and he is a bit of a pessimist as well, isn't he? It's kind of
he didn't help his idea. He didn't help. Yeah. He didn't help in portraying his idea in a way that could have been like got people on board. I think there's a he could have had his fans. Yeah.
I can see where he's coming from, but to be like, oh, I like cinema with fiction and theater and literature is ridiculous. But maybe that's because, as we've mentioned before, I'm a story guy. I want stories in film. That's the whole reason I love cinema, is kind of like I'm watching different people's stories. But I guess here he's saying, like, this is real life. And it's also a story.
It is a story.
I just want to tell it to you as it is, which I guess you can argue with how as it is when people have a camera stuck in their face. You know, you could say whatever. But if we're going with it, then yeah.
Well, there's a story. And I love watching people from 100 years ago who are like 60, 70 years already into their lives, or they're little infants, or they're, you know, they're children, and we're watching them live their everyday life. And it's very interesting to kind of like ponder and see little vignettes of what they're getting up to. And like, and it's not every day we get a Soviet 1929 depiction of what, you know, the day in the life is like there. So it humanizes that period of history too, which is really cool. I love, like, there's a sequence where there's you know, kind of progressive in a way. There's a shooting range where there's just women having shooting pellet guns at targets, like full rifles, and they're shooting them at
now you're the woke guy.
No, I'm the woke guy. It's just internal. That's all it is. When they're shooting pellets at caricatures of women in Nazi uniforms or hats, and it's like, oh yeah, I mean, like, yeah, 1929, yeah, this was still on everybody's radar. Everybody knew 10 years before the Second World War around the world that these guys weren't any good. And obviously, like, you know, the whole Marxist sort of manifesto was completely opposed to the Nazi fascism. You know, so there's a really cool little like context backgrounds that we get there too. I love can I just add as well, whilst we're on that point, Vertov's background is actually in Russian propaganda films, and you can see that, like, this is, I don't think anything that he's displaying within this film is being like, I don't think it's sad. I think it is a celebration of, like, look at this thriving city, this Russian thriving empire. Look at us work. Look how it works. It works and it works. It works. I don't know where I'm getting with that. It does. It has that. It's kind of like a mixture of that sort of like sort of comrade workmanship, but there's also in the luxury side of things, or the way that the people enjoy themselves in a leisurely way, is very like, there's almost like a European French sort of sensibility to the city's depiction as well, which is kind of different to what I was expecting. But then it's also fair to say that the USSR actually that was kind of originally where they set up a division to make propaganda film. And he was part of that division. They set up a whole school for it, where they wanted, like, great, we see cinema as a way to depict stories about, you know, Russian and Soviet life in the way that we want to depict it. You know, we get Potemkin is like an example of that we visited earlier on the show. But
which he loathed, by the way.
Is that true? I didn't see that.
Yeah. Did not like Potemkin.
Reasons?
Even because it's fiction.
Oh, of course. Well, semi-fiction, right?
Semi-fiction. Yeah. It's not a documentary. It's like a recreation.
Yeah, I mean, like, the scene with people getting massacred on the steps is very heightened, and
But playing with those similar elements of montage. And now that I've said loathed, I feel like
he loathed it, yes.
I don't know if he loathed it, but like he actively
critiquing,
did not.
yes.
Yeah, he was kind of, this whole film was against those kinds of films. And I'm pretty sure Potemkin was mentioned in kind of his idea of like, this is not what film should be. Even though they're both working with montage and editing. And I think this is very much about editing as well, right? Like how what you bring to an image from the previous image that you just saw.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there's a moment like the movie is about manipulation in a way, and I can't tell because of what his opinions are outside of cinema. I can't tell if like he is in favor of manipulation or not, because there's a sequence halfway through the film where it freezes. We get freeze frames on people. So we were, like a woman walking down the street, or people in carriages. It gets a freeze frame and it stops in time for a moment, and then we go to the editing room, which was actually Vertov's wife who was editing the film, and we see her cutting the scenes that we're watching on screen together. All the time that Vertov is reminding the audience every moment that, yes, you're watching people on street, but I am here with the camera the whole time. Here's where, that shot of the train? I'm underneath the train right now. Here's me setting it up. Here's me above the city setting up. I'm in control. This is my little model set, and everybody's my little mannequin that
I am God. There were some shots which are great, right? That kind of double exposure where it looks like he's above the city with the camera looking down. I love that kind of stuff. That was fantastic. And you're right. I think it is a film about the editing. I think you were talking about the kind of different in classes and the kind of the way people luxuriate. And you had the one woman who's kind of like picking up mud or dung or something. And then it cuts to women having their hair washed and makeup done and stuff like that. Like that is inherently, you're trying to project something onto the screen with that kind of stuff. Putting those two things together is inherently political and manipulative
and narrative storytelling.
Did you ever see that clip where like Hitchcock is talking about editing, and he uses himself in this, where he's like, look at this image of me just staring out in the distance. Now if I cut to a bowl of soup, it looks like I'm hungry. Now if you cut to a woman with a baby, it looks like I'm a kind old man. And then if you cut to a woman with a bikini, then you're thinking he's a dirty old pervert. And it's the same shot of Hitchcock. It's just what we're editing, what we're cutting to, which is changing your perception of that scene. And I was thinking a lot about that clip here when we were seeing all the different scenes kind of juxtaposed together and thinking, what are you trying to say? And like obviously putting my own kind of feelings and interpretations on top of that as well.
Well, that's a really good comparison. And interestingly enough, Hitchcock, another filmmaker whose wife did the editing as well. That's fascinating. And I think what you're watching, when you're seeing very early depictions of cinema that playing with new ideas, and we're seeing an artist who is really, it has his principles, but I quite like the messiness of seeing those ideals contradict themselves on screen. But what we're getting out of this, even though that it's contrary to what he's saying off the camera, we are getting several pioneering, show-stopping cinematic techniques that we still enjoy today. And like you can't. Maybe it's not something that I would put on. Just, this isn't Singing in the Rain that we talked about the other week, where I'm just going to put this on whenever I'm having a chicken soup and I'm feeling like shit. But
if anything, we both struggled a little bit. We had a massive heat wave this weekend. It was 33-degree heat.
We put it off, yeah.
We were trapped indoors. I think we both left it to last. I'm going to say last night, but I think it was during the day for you. But it was difficult to know when to put this film on, and it's only an hour long. It's on the BFI player. It's readily available.
But it wasn't slow. It did go fast,
and it's not slow. Yeah. And I was very invested in it when I was watching it. But it was one of those films. It was difficult to know, when am I in the right mood for this, especially when I'm just hot and sweaty and tired.
yeah, I completely get it. No, but like, should we bring ourselves to the broad question? You always ask me. I'm going to ask you this week. Is Man with a Movie Camera to you, Alex? Is it something that you can see why it's on the top 10 list? Would you put it there?
Okay. Yes and no. So, I did enjoy the film. It's difficult because I guess if I was putting myself in 1927, I'd be like, yeah, this is blowing me away. However, audiences in 1927, very similar to other films on this list, were not blown away by it. They didn't like it, and it was later reevaluated. I can see why it inspired so many people, and it's really got me thinking about like what is cinema, what is the potential of cinema, and all that kind of stuff that we've spoken about prior with other films on this list. So I can see why it's on the list.
Mm-hmm.
Would I put it in the top 10? No. I don't think it's a top 10 film of all time for me. But I can understand its place on the list.
We're coming from exactly the same place here. I think for a top 10, I think we're both very, I think it attests to us because we are both very emotional viewers. So I think for something to kind of go into the top 10, it both has to be like formally very, something very cinematic and something that's kind of deep rooted in kind of what cinema means to us, but also is emotionally invested. We're also going to probably, I like to cry in movies. I like something that really like gets under my skin. This is definitely like something that I enjoyed from an entertainment point of view, but it is something that is academic, which completely has merit. And I can see why somebody who is completely versed in this side of history and cinema intertwined together would put us in the top 10. But yeah, I'm with you there. Definitely check it out if you want to see the origin of how these amazing techniques were kind of put on screen, and also see the Soviet Union in a light that you probably haven't seen before. It's very fascinating from that point of view, and that's what kind of got me through the whole project.
It is fascinating. Why do you think, and maybe this is a bit of a big question to end this on, but why do you think that Vertov's vision for cinema did not come true? Why do you think we continue to make films that were very fiction and story based?
Well, we're coming from different time periods, so it's hard to put ourselves in the mind frame. Cinema was only very young at the time, and it's the same reason why people probably put little investment onto what his film achieved, because it's a young form of art. And we have the romantic attachment from decades or a century, that we have, and all the films that we've seen that people back then didn't. So it's very easy to dismiss. I think also there's naivety on his part, even though he obviously is a great artist, and there's a naivety onto what cinema would become, because they had no idea. Did he even know that talkies were just around the corner at that part, and would completely change the form of what that medium could achieve and what it did for people stuck in the old medium. I mean, he can't read into the future. He didn't have a crystal ball.
No, it's true. Okay.
What about you?
I pretty much agree with you there on all of that. That's a cop-out, isn't it?
It's a really boring answer, but like, that's the same thing. Like, none of us can like know anything about any future. I don't know where streaming's going to go. I don't know where where gaming's going to go. It's just like, we just have to live and see what happens.
It's nice to think that this new art form could have become something that wasn't what anything else was before, but then, like you say, that is naivety.
It still became that, but it just became a genre as opposed to like all of it. Yeah.
From the moment like Neanderthals are drawing on caves, humans have been
your ancestors.
Thank you. We've been drawn to telling stories, right? So of course, the natural evolution is every art form that comes in is another way for us to kind of tell stories. So I appreciate that there are obviously documentaries, and documentary is a big part of cinema, but I see where he's coming from. But do you agree with me at the start of this episode that Vertov would have hated Superman?
Yes. Frivolity at its worst.
Would have hated it.
Absolutely. When you just love to like take an audience, would just resurrect like Ghostbusters 2, just like take like a ghostly crew of 1929 filmmakers, put them in front of Superman and IMAX.
Yeah.
It
is something. Well, guys, that was Man with a Movie Camera.
There you go. You can check that out on the BFI player if you're subscribed to that channel like we are. We are not affiliated with it. It's just really cheap. And you can get that via Amazon Prime.
Brilliant. Okay. Next episode, Chris. We have got a bit of a mix of episodes coming up in the future at the moment because we're both on summer holidays in the near future. So we're trying our best to play around with things. So I think next week we may have a Ghibli angle coming for you.
Mm-hmm.
But the week after that, we'll be back in the superhero world with Fantastic Four First Steps. Are you superheroed out yet, Chris?
You know what? This is going to be real. The Superman discussion was interesting. This is going to be really interesting to see where we fall.
I am really enjoying the trailers for the Fantastic Four films, and they're obviously really.
I like that superhero movies have a different thing this summer as opposed to previous summers. I like the vibe is different.
They are really ramping up the marketing now, and maybe. I think Superman did this as well, where maybe they're showing just a little bit too much in some of these trailers. And there's a few bits in Fantastic Four where I've caught clips, and I'm like, oh, I kind of didn't want to know that. I didn't want to know that's. I kind of feel like I know where the first half of this film is going.
Yeah.
But there you go. Whatever. Has Superman made me more excited for Fantastic Four? No, probably not. probably made me less excited, but I'm still excited.
Hey, it's clobbering time.
It's clobbering time. But yeah, that's in a couple of weeks. But yeah, just letting you know that we're mixing it up a little bit as we get into these summer weeks.
Yeah. I'm really excited to talk about the next Ghibli film with you, man. It is one of my favorite ones. It's a Takahata film, not a Miyazaki, and so far you've been pretty strong on Takahata. So yeah, I've got, hopefully this will be a good discussion when we next meet up.
Yeah, so if you're doing your homework and you want to follow us along with the Ghibli angle, the next film on the list is Only Yesterday. So we've got that. We want to do another Films That Stream and Forgot coming up. We had the proposition from Janet for Youth in Revolt. So that'll be coming up at some point in the next few weeks as well. We're hoping, more film angle coming your way, people.
Whether you like it or not.
Yeah, or maybe I've been cancelled by them due to not liking Superman that much.
Could you be cancelled? Could you be cancelled for not liking a movie? Come on.
I don't know, man. These DC fanboys. That's scary.
You know what? I don't want them listening then.
Oh, I want them listening.
As long as you're a nice person, I want you listening. But if you're terrible person, don't listen.
They still scare me a little. And I don't want to be associated with a Snyder fan either. So
hey, you're true to yourself and you don't care, and that's more integrity than 90% of people on the internet have. So I'm proud of you, man.
Oh, thank you, Chris. I do care.
Maybe we should wrap up the show now.
Maybe we should. Let's do that before we get too personal and vulnerable. And that is, at the end of the day, my biggest human weakness.
Yes. Your kryptonite.
Yeah. You pointed out at the start or before the show that Lex is short for Alex. And I had never put two and two together on that one.
Yes.
Is that bad of me?
Well, for anybody listening, I used that as a comparison for Alex's thieving of joy from this episode. He is our Lex.
I'm the Lex Luthor of this episode. I represent envy and hatred and vitriol.
It's actually A1!
Great moment, the A1 scene. Great moment.
Very
in
good.
That film. There is no doubt. Okay, that has been the episode for this week. If you've enjoyed it, please make sure to leave us a 5-star rating or review. We do really appreciate it. And if you'd like to keep up to date with us, then you can find us on Instagram and TikTok at The Film Angle.
We also have a Film Angle playlist. If you want to listen to what we listen to, you can find that in the show notes. Be sure to catch us next week for more cinematic discussions. But for now, see you later. Goodbye.
Goodbye.